My parents lived rent-free, and my duplex, then tried to get my unit to my brother for a better start. They even showed it without telling me. But I had already sold the whole building. Hey Reddit, owning a duplex was one of the proudest achievements of my life. I bought it in my late 20s after years of working double shifts, saving every cent in resisting the temptation to splurge on things my friends often enjoyed: vacations, gadgets, nights out. When I finally got the keys, it felt like I'd made it. The plan was simple: live in one unit and rent the other out. But when my parents ran into some financial issues due to my dad's job loss and some poor investment decisions, I offered them my second unit free. They were incredibly grateful. So I thought at the time I genuinely wanted to help. They had supported me when I was younger, and it felt like the right thing to do. The first few months were smooth. I lived downstairs, they lived upstairs, and we coexist peacefully. Sure, they could be a bit noisy or overly involved in my life, but they were my parents, and I chalked it up to them just trying to stay close. Over time, though, things started shifting in weird ways. They started treating the duplex like it was theirs, making comments about how I should decorate or suggesting changes to my space. Then came the red flags. My mom began dropping casual hints about how I didn't really need so much space, and how it was selfish of me to live alone, while others in the family struggled. My brother, 2 years younger than me, and notoriously irresponsible with money, had recently had his third failed attempt at living on his own. He kept bouncing back to my parents' couch like a boomerang, always with excuses, and apparently my parents had decided he needed a fresh start, which to them met my unit. When they first brought it up, I laughed. I genuinely thought they were joking. But then they kept pushing it. My dad, usually the quieter one, sat me down and actually tried to convince me that it would be the right thing to do. As the eldest sibling, he said I was already established and that my brother was just struggling to find his footing. I told them flat out, no. I worked for this, I paid for this. This was my home, not some community handout center. They backed off. At least that's what I thought, until one Saturday afternoon when I came back from a weekend trip with friends and found a strange car in my driveway. Confused, I parked on the street and walked in through the side and carrots, and that's when I saw it. My mom, my dad, my brother, and some woman I didn't recognize standing in my kitchen talking about the layout in space as if it were up for grabs. My mom was literally showing this woman around like some real estate agent. The woman looked just as confused as me when I asked what the hell was going on. My brother had the audacity to smirk and say, relax, we're just checking out the space. No decisions have been made yet. I lost it. I kicked them all out, and my parents acted like I was being dramatic. My mom even said you weren't using the space properly anyway, as if I didn't live there, as if it was theirs to offer. That night I locked my door, turned off my phone, and just sat in silence. I felt betrayed on a level I can't even explain. These were the people I let live rent-free and a home I built for myself. These were the people who raised me, now treating me like a stepping stone for their golden child. And that's when I made my decision. What they didn't know was that I'd already been talking to a real estate investor about selling the duplex. The market was booming, and I'd been debating whether it was the right time to let go and move into something bigger. That they sealed it for me. I called the investor and told him I was ready to close. We negotiated, finalized paperwork, and within 2 weeks the deal was done. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my brother. I didn't even hand at it. I just waited until the day the papers were signed. The look on their faces when I told them they had 30 days to vacate was something I'll never forget. My mom went pale. My dad looked stunned. My brother, of course, went on a rant about how selfish I was, how I'd ruined his one chance at a fresh start. My mom even cried, saying I was abandoning them and that family should come first. But it was too late. They made their choices. I made mine. The building wasn't theirs to give away. It was never theirs to begin with. And just when I thought the drama was over and they would accept the consequences, quietly things escalated even further, and I never could have predicted what they'd try next. As after I told them the duplex was sold and they had 30 days to vacate, it felt like a storm had begun brewing, one that would only intensify over the coming days. The silence after I made the announcement wasn't peace. It was the eerie kind of quiet you get before a tornado ripped through everything. The look on their faces had already said it all. My father was pale and stiff. My mother's lips trembled, and my brother looked like a child who had just found out his favorite toy was going to someone else. None of them had words at first, just stares, silent, bitter, accusing stares. I went back to my unit that evening and locked the door. sat on the edge of my bed and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for months. As for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt the smallest tinge of control return. But I knew better than to believe that would be the end of it. Within hours, the tax started rolling in. My mother was first. Her messages began with emotional blackmail. Long paragraphs about how parents sacrifice for their children, how they moved into that duplex only because I offered, how I was now taking the roof away from over their heads. Then she switched tones. The messages got sharper, angrier. She started saying I was selfish, cold-hearted, that I was turning my back on family when they needed me the most. My father followed shortly after with more calculated words he didn't bother with. Guilt trips. He went straight to trying to manipulate my sense of duty. He reminded me of my upbringing, about how they raised me to be a family man, how I was supposed to lead by example. Then came the calls from relatives, cousins I hadn't seen in 5 years, uncles who didn't even send a text on my birthday. It's who never visited unless there was free for food involved. They all suddenly had an opinion. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't care about my side. They just repeated what my parents must have told them, that I'd sold the building without notice, that I was visiting my own aging parents, that I was leaving my poor brother without a chance at life. The narrative had clearly been twisted beyond recognition. I was the villain. Now the heartless homeowner who betrayed the very people who gave him life. I tried explaining to a few of them. I sent voice notes or even screenshotted a few conversations where my mother had tried to offer my home to someone else. But it didn't matter. Once people decide you're the villain, they don't want facts. They want drama. Eventually, I stopped responding all together. I blocked over a dozen numbers in the span of a week. Meanwhile, my brother kept showing up at the property like it was still his birthright. On one occasion, I walked out of my unit to find him sitting on the stairs smoking like he didn't have a care in the world. I told him to leave, and he had the audacity to tell me he was just waiting for the new keys to be handed. Damn, I told him point blank that there would be no keys. The place wasn't mine anymore. I'd sold it. And even if I hadn't, he would have never stepped foot into my unit again. He smirked, rolled his eyes, and mumbled that I'd regret treating family this way. I closed the door on his words. Then came the vandalism. One morning, I walked outside to find fine. My car keyed, deep scratches down both sides, the word traitor etched into the hood like a signature. A fool. The police report, though I didn't have concrete proof. But come on, who else could it have been? My neighborhood was safe, quiet. There's never been issues before. The timing was too perfect to target it. I installed a security camera the very next day and pointed it right at the driveway back inside. I started preparing for the final days. I contacted a lawyer, drafted a formal eviction letter, and had it delivered to my parents' unit via a certified mail. I kept everything in writing. I knew I had to treat this like a business transaction now, because emotions were clearly a liability. My parents didn't respond to the letter, but I knew they got it. I heard my dad slam something against the wall upstairs the day it arrived. They didn't pack a single box. As the days passed, they acted like nothing was happening, like the deadline didn't exist. They still played music loudly at night, cooked strong-smelling meals that wafted through the vents left right outside their door. I began to think they were planning to squat, that they'd force the new owners to go through legal channels. But I had documented everything, dates, times, notices. I even had photos of the condition of the unit prior to the sale, so they couldn't damage it and claim it was already like that. Then came the final day. I arrived with the new owners ready to officially hand over the keys and walk away for good. When we stepped inside the upstairs unit, my heart sank. The place was trashed, not destroyed, but clearly disrespected. Piles of trash bags and corners, empty boxes, cabinets left open, dried spills on the floor. And then we saw the messages. Permanent marker on the living room wall. You'll regret this. Blood before bricks. Real family doesn't sell out. It was juvenile, like a child throwing a tantrum. But it also felt symbolic, a final act of defiance. The new owners were understandably shocked. I apologized profusely, assured them I would handle cleanup, and offered to pay for professional cleaners out of my own pocket. They were gracious, thankfully, and still moved forward with the transition. But for me, standing in that mass was oddly cathartic. It was like the physical manifestation of what I endured: months of manipulation, guilt-tripping, entitlement, and betrayal now finally laid bare for all to see. After that, I never heard from my parents directly again. They moved in with my aunt temporarily, and word got around that they were trying to pursue legal action for emotional distress. Their case didn't even make it past the first consultation. My lawyer laughed when he read the letter. Their attorney had said they were grasping at straws. My brother, last I heard, he was couch hopping between friends, still complaining about how I ruined his life, still convinced that I owed him something, still unwilling to get a job that didn't involve a gaming headset or e-breeds. He was a lost cause, and I had finally accepted that. As for me, I moved into a new condo across the city, a quieter area. No shit waltz, no nosy relatives. The first night I slept there, I didn't hear footsteps above me. I didn't smell curry from my parents' late-night cooking. I didn't get a knock on my door or a guilt-trip voicemail. I just slept peacefully. Sometimes I look back and wonder how it all spiraled so far, how the people who raised me turned into strangers who saw me. He is nothing more than a resource, but I don't feel regret, not anymore. I gave them years of free rent. I helped them when they were down. I opened my home. I did my part. But when they tried to give away my life's work to someone else, when they offered my home to my brother behind my back, that's when I realized I wasn't their son anymore.